Deep inside the Sahara Desert, on the wall of a forgotten cave, ancient artists painted a haunting message. They drew people swimming, not in a small pond, but across vast open water, in a place that is now one of the driest on Earth. This isn't a myth. It is a ghost-like image, a literal photograph in stone from a lost green world. These paintings from the Cave of Swimmers are a memory. They are a record of a time so different, it feels like another planet. For thousands of years, the world's largest desert wasn't a desert at all. It was alive, it was wet, and it was green. This era is known as the African humid period. It was a time when regular, powerful rains soaked the land we now call the Sahara. This wasn't just a few scattered oases. It was a massive transformation of an entire region. A vibrant savanna stretched across North Africa, filled with rivers, lakes, and life. The scale of this green world is hard to imagine. At its heart was a body of water called Lake Mega Chad. This prehistoric lake was a true giant. It was larger than all of North America's Great Lakes combined, a freshwater sea in the middle of a sprawling grassland. Picture this. Where today there is only an ocean of sand, giraffes once stretched their necks to eat from tall trees. Elephants and hippos roamed through lush wetlands, and thriving human cultures built communities along the shores of these now vanished lakes, leaving behind tools and their incredible art. The proof of this lost world isn't just in the desert, it's also buried deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Scientists drill into the seabed off the coast of West Africa, pulling up long tubes of mud. These sediment cores are like a planetary diary, holding the history of the land in their layers. Inside these cores, the story becomes clear. They found alternating layers. Thick, coarse bands of desert sand are followed by fine, dark layers of mud. This dark mud is rich with the pollen and remains of tropical plants. The Sahara was literally breathing, inhaling as a desert and exhaling as a garden, over and over again. So what was the engine driving this incredible change? The answer isn't on Earth at all. It's in the sky. The entire cycle is powered by a gentle, slow wobble in our planet's tilt. A cosmic metronome that ticks once every 23,000 years. This wobble, called axial precession, changes which part of the Earth is closest to the Sun during its summer. It's a tiny change in our planet's posture, but for the Sahara, that tiny change means everything. It's the difference between life and sand. When the Northern Hemisphere's summer happens at the same time Earth is at its closest point to the Sun, the summers become hotter. This extra heat over North Africa supercharges the annual monsoon. The winds carry much more moisture from the Atlantic, pushing the life-giving rains deep into the continent, turning the desert green. That slow, gentle wobble in space had a huge effect back on Earth. It turned up the heat on the Northern Hemisphere's summers. This extra warmth supercharged the West African monsoon, the great weather engine that brings rain from the ocean. Think of this monsoon not as just rain, but as a colossal river flowing through the sky, an ocean of moisture lifted from the warm Atlantic waters. It was pulled deep inland, traveling thousands of miles to pour down onto the thirsty sands of the Sahara year after year. And where the water went, life followed. This wasn't just a few patches of grass, it was a complete ecosystem. Archaeologists have found the skeletons of giraffes, elephants, and even hippos buried deep beneath the dunes of the modern desert. People lived there too. We know of at least two distinct cultures, the Kiphian and the Tenarian, who built their lives around these ancient lakes and rivers. They were fishermen who used harpoons. They were cattle herders who managed vast herds. We know this because they left their stories for us to find. They carved incredible pictures into the rocks. These images show people swimming in deep lakes and hunters tracking crocodiles. They show a world that is impossible to imagine when you stand there today. But this paradise holds a dark mystery. The orbital cycle that created the Green Sahara was incredibly slow. It unfolded over thousands and thousands of years. The change was so gradual, no single generation would have ever noticed it. The end, however, was not gradual at all. The evidence shows the collapse was terrifyingly fast. The lakes dried up, the grasslands vanished, and the desert returned in the span of just a few centuries. For the people living there, it must have felt like the world was ending. So what went wrong? The slow change in Earth's orbit was just the trigger. The real culprit was something scientists call a climatic tipping point. The ecosystem was pushed slowly towards a hidden edge, and then it fell off a cliff. It began with a slight weakening of that great monsoon. A little less rain meant some of the grasses died. The now bare soil, lighter in color, reflected more of the sun's heat back into the sky. This heated up the air above it. Hotter, drier air makes it even harder for rain to form. So the next year, the monsoon was even weaker. This created a catastrophic feedback loop. Less rain meant more dead plants, which meant more reflected heat, which meant even less rain. The system began to feed on itself, accelerating the collapse until the green was gone. So, can the Sahara ever become green again? The answer, written in the slow, patient language of the cosmos, is yes. That cosmic metronome, the gentle wobble of our planet on its axis, is still ticking. It never stopped. The great clock of the Earth continues its silent, predictable rhythm. The cycle is set to repeat. Based on that same orbital tilt that once turned the desert green, scientists can see the future pattern. In about 10,000 years, the conditions will be right once more. The North African monsoon will strengthen. It will push north again, carrying life-giving rains deep into the heart of the sand. The greening will return. Rivers will flow in ancient, dried-up beds. Lakes will fill. Grasslands will spread across the dunes, and the Sahara will breathe a green and living sigh of relief. It's not a question of if, but simply a matter of when. The planet's grand plan is already in motion. This ancient story holds a powerful lesson for our time. The Sahara's rapid collapse is one of the clearest, most well-documented examples of an abrupt climate shift our planet has ever recorded. It is a stark reminder of how quickly a world can change. This isn't a computer model or a future prediction. It is real, historical evidence written in dust, pollen, and stone. It shows us that ecosystems have tipping points. They can seem stable for thousands of years, and then, in the span of just a few human lifetimes, transform completely. It forces us to see with new eyes, beyond the scale of a single human life. We see a barren wasteland, a tragic collapse. The Earth, however, sees only patience. This vast expanse of sand is not a scar on the world. It is a future garden, sleeping, waiting for its turn. This knowledge encourages us to see the desert in a new light. The Sahara isn't a permanent, static wasteland. It is a landscape in waiting. It is one phase of a breathtakingly long cycle, a world caught between two gardens. The desert we see is not an endpoint. It is a slumber. The endless sand is not an absence of life, but a different state of being. Beneath the surface, the memory of water and life persists. The desert is resting, holding the promise of the rains that will one day return. The story of the Sahara teaches us that our planet is constantly in motion. It is a dynamic and breathing world of cycles we are only just beginning to understand. We live on a thin, fragile layer of a world with a deep, powerful, and ancient pulse. So, when we ask if the Sahara can become green again, the answer reveals a more profound truth. It tells us that landscapes have memories, that even the most barren places on Earth are not forgotten by the forces that shape them. They are simply waiting for their turn to bloom again. So, if the Earth's natural rhythm will bring back the rain, do we just wait? Some people have a different idea, a much faster one. They look at the vast, empty expanse of the Sahara and see not a desert, but a giant blank canvas for the biggest engineering projects in human history. Picture this, an area the size of a country covered in dark solar panels. Not just to make electricity, these panels would change the desert itself. They would drink in the sun's heat, making the ground much hotter than the bright, reflective sand. This extra heat would change the air above it. Hot air rises. As it rises, it would create a low-pressure zone, a kind of atmospheric vacuum, and that vacuum would begin to pull in moist, humid air from the Atlantic Ocean. It would, in theory, create its own rain. Except, that's not the whole story. The Earth's climate is not a simple machine with an on-off switch. It's a beautifully complex web of connections. Pushing on one part of the web makes another part, thousands of miles away, tremble in response. Nobody saw what could happen next. A man-made monsoon in the Sahara might sound great, but that massive shift in weather could steal rain from other places. The very same atmospheric rivers that would water the Sahara could be diverted from the Amazon rainforest. Greening one part of the world could unintentionally turn another part brown. Think about the planet as a single, living body. Its circulatory system of wind and water is finely balanced. Changing the weather in North Africa is like adding a new, powerful artery. The whole system would have to reroute itself to cope. Some places would win and others would lose, and this reveals a deeper, more incredible truth about the Sahara. It isn't a dead place even now. It is breathing life across the planet. Every year, massive dust storms lift millions of tons of sand into the sky. This isn't just sand, it's fertilizer. This river of dust travels on the wind. It journeys 3,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean. The journey takes about a week, and its destination is the Amazon basin. That ancient dust, full of phosphorus and other minerals, is exactly what the rainforest needs to grow. The soil in the Amazon is actually quite poor. It's constantly washed out by heavy rains. The Sahara's gift of dust is what replenishes it. The world's largest desert is feeding the world's largest rainforest. A barren landscape provides the nutrients for the most alive place on Earth. So the Sahara was never truly separate from the world. It is not a wasteland waiting to be fixed. It is a sleeping partner in the dance of life. Its story reminds us that every part of our planet has a purpose, even the quiet, empty ones.